competing against one another. They're all under the same awning, and they go back together, they debrief together, they train together, they learn together, and in most cases they even travel together. So they get a lot of time to really build up relationships and help one another out. Let's go ahead and get down to the celebrations. Michael Hill has found these ladies. Michael?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie, down here with the double winner. And as you said, she won every race last year, and she started in the same form this year, undefeated in BTR, Michaela. Big smiles, and you must be happy with that one. A winning margin of more than 20 seconds at the end. Pretty commanding win.
Yeah, the bike actually felt better this session. I had a goal in mind that I wanted to shoot for 144. So to be able to do that, I was super happy. Got to give it up to the Dunlop Q5 tires. They performed well out there. The K-Tech suspension did awesome. Super happy to be up here, and I'm looking forward to MotoAmerica.
Thank you, Michaela. Let's move on then to, yeah, come on, let's keep the applause going. Another podium for Emma Bedders in second place, and an equally as big a smile as we saw earlier on today. Slightly longer race. How was that one for you?
Yeah, it felt great. Dunlop tires felt awesome on track. Super fierce competition. All of my teammates are getting better every round, so fantastic race. Absolutely
great to see the smile from Emma, and I'm sure we're going to see an equally big smile from Camille Conrad, also getting a double podium, and looks like you had to work for that one. I can see the sweat on your brow. You certainly put everything into that. That was great racing to watch. Congratulations, a double podium here for you at Barber.
Yeah, thank you so much. They were really making me work for it. Miranda came by me on one of the laps, so I just tried to buckle down, and it was awesome battling with Emma. And I just want to say a big thank you to the Royal Enfield and BTR, and thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you out there, Jamie. And as we saw earlier, three very happy ladies, and rightly so. What a great series this is.
It really is. You know, I love what Michaela was able to do there. She gave us a little bit of an insight. She had a goal. She set a goal for herself of a 144. Freddie Spencer, you've seen these goals now being achieved. The role that you've been able to play in that, how rewarding is it?
Oh, well, it's priceless. You know, it's for me, being in a sport as I've really been for, well, 57 years. Yeah, I started at 4 years old, and then 29 years of racing. And for me, that's, you know, coming back to this and being able to be involved and helping any way I can is priceless. And I'm just proud for them. You know, that's the main thing. So I'm looking forward to them being, you know, racing in 2 weeks at MotoAmerica, and they'll continue improving as the year goes on.
Yeah, you see those points, 50 points for Michaela Moore. It was a perfect weekend. Take a look at the highlights here from race number 2. Michaela got a much better start this time around.
Well, like she said, she was putting her head down, and she was working on, I know she had a goal, and that's where she's at with this, which is great, is in being able to accomplish it. But the battle between Camille, Emma, and Miranda was really good, and they're going to, you can see they were improving every single lap and making passes and getting comfortable racing with each other.
She didn't put a wheel wrong, and Michaela Moore was able to just ride a flawless race today and just continue chasing the dream that she told Roger and I on our preview show earlier this weekend, is that she really wants to be in this paddock full time, and she knows that this is a great opportunity to get there. Taking home that checkered flag, waving to the fans, and that celebration will continue for the next couple of weeks. The next time we will see Royal Enfield Build Train race, all 13 of these ladies will be out at MotoAmerica. It will be the second round of competition for them, and that's a great racetrack to learn.
Well, it is, and it's completely different. Last year we started at MotoAmerica, and it's such a high-speed circuit. I thought this year's schedule is perfect, starting here on a technical racetrack, and them getting kind of precise with that. And then when they get to a faster circuit, it's easier then to build on that than the other way around, I felt sometimes. So they're looking forward to that. Most of them, a lot of them hadn't been to MotoAmerica, and it's one of our iconic circuits. And for them, the dream to get to race on these racetracks is just part of what the reward is.
I think one of the things, Roger, you actually said it earlier, that you can tell that the riders had gone out and they had been watching some of these other sessions because they were making moves that we've seen made earlier today in other races. And being a part of the race weekend and seeing all of the different classes, it has to help them with that learning curve.
I think just being able to watch and soak it up, and you see going and asking other riders questions, I think that's huge. Not only ask their own teammates, but go and ask other riders that they know in the paddock and be able to watch and learn and ask. It's just whenever you're due to something, you can't ask too many questions. And, you always hear people say, this might be a dumb question. There's not a question that's dumb when you ask and trying to get better at whatever it might be. So there's a lot of questions. We all had them when we started racing, and you can see they're out there trying to figure it out.
They are.
Freddie, we know that you're a very busy man, and you've put a lot of effort and a lot of heart into this Royal Enfield program. Unfortunately, it's the only time we're going to see you out here this season. But we really appreciate you coming up here and giving us some insight.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Jamie. It's always great seeing you, Raj. And I'm just so excited for the program. And I want to tell you, everyone here at MotoAmerica and seeing how this has grown is really great. And we're all racers, and we all want everything to work well. And so I look forward to the next time.
I know
and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, you'll be watching along. Thank you very much. You see all of the fans that are out here at Barber Motorsports Park, and part of each and every race weekend that MotoAmerica puts on is the Fan Fest. This weekend, it occurred out over in the Fan Village here at Barber Motorsports Park. And Roger, we see different things at each of the different racetracks that we go to, but it's always a show.
It's always a show, and these guys on the trials bikes, I mean, it's incredible what they can do and the show they put on. And there's something for all ages as well coming to these races, and there's so much to do, and get to see other brands. A lot of dealers like Suzuki brings a lot of bikes there. You get to go check out all the brands and meet all the riders.
Hello and welcome to Three Sisters Circuit in Wigan for round 4 of the Pass Me Fast Ultimate Karting Championship. In our last programme, we brought you the super finals from our opening 2 classes that were Micromax and Senior Rotax. And in this programme, we'll be bringing you the remaining 3 that are Honda GX200, Mini Inter and Junior Rotax. The circuit here in Wigan has already delivered some fantastic racing action, and we can expect more of the same in this programme. Well, some fantastic racing in our opening 2 classes there, and we continue now then with the Honda GX200s, where, as we look at the championship table, it's Ryan White who's still leading the way, having been on the podium every round. But he's not running away with it, because just behind him, only a handful of points adrift, is Theo Bradshaw. And just behind Theo is Ollie Thompson. And as you may remember, Ollie put himself on the podium at round 2 with a well-deserved 2nd place. So earlier on, I thought I'd stop by the Lenny Messenger Motorsport awning and have a chat to Ryan and Ollie and see what their hopes were for this weekend.
Hi, I'm Ollie Thompson, kart number 18, Honda Cadet. At Warden Law in the Super Heat, I managed to stick with the front 2. I think they got a bit argy-bargy and got penalties, so I managed to get the win. At Warden Law in the Super Final, I messed up my start and lost a position or 2. And at that point, the leaders had pushed to get away, and the gap was too big for me and Ed to catch back up. Yeah, me and Ryan, we are quite aggressive, but we will work together in moments that we have to. That we're working. He's a really good teammate. Yeah, Ryan, he was doing really well, and then I think he made a mistake on the final lap, which cost him the place to Ralphie, and then he made a mistake and hit Ralphie, which then cost him another place. This weekend I'm hoping to achieve a race win or a podium, but if I manage to beat my rival, then I might end up second in the championship. My name is Ryan White, number 47 in Honda Cadet 200s. Last round at Warnlaw was very close, but in the closing laps I made a mistake, and that cost me first place. With the championship, I think if I can just top 3 today and tomorrow, then I think I can stay in the championship lead. I like it here at Three Sisters Circuit because there's each and every corner there is an opportunity for a pass to be done and a move to be made, and well, I've got good competition. On the podium this weekend, I reckon will be me, hopefully Ollie Thompson and Theo Bradshaw.
Well, best of luck to Ollie and Ryan, and indeed all the others racing in Honda GX 200s. Let's go and join your race commentator, Jake Satterson.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
Time for Honda Cadets now, the only standing start in the Pass Me Fast Ultimate Karting Championship. Theo Bradshaw and Ryan White on the front row of the grid from Ollie Thompson and Andrew Sutherland. Then Fenton Stoneman and Ed Spain, Blair Smith and our cameraman Ashley Harzay. Then Cameron Tipping, Ralphie Branscombe, Leela McNeish and Esme Rose. Was that a slight creep there from Andrew Sutherland? I think he should just about get away with that. Off we go. And we're on board with our cameraman Ashley Harzay as Ralphie Branscombe sets off like a rocket ship up to the first corner. A little bit of nudging between Harzay and Blair Smith. Rubbing's racing, as they say. Up over the top of the crest, and now dropping down. As once again, our fabulous drone keeps up with the Honda Cadets as they run through in fantastic style here at Three Sisters. So a good duel down to the final section of the course where these hairpin bends, these sweepers really do mix it up. They come off the turns, some great wheel-to-wheel stuff. Just see the drone to the right there, trying to keep up. There it is, just above the 72 of Ed Spain as they work through Luna Bend and to cross the line to begin the second lap. Racing is very fast indeed here. Thompson wants to go for the victory in front of the battle behind him. Trying to have a look there on the inside of Theo Bradshaw. Decided not to go committal. So White, Bradshaw, Thompson and Sutherland. Sutherland is catching up to the trio now. top three is still pulling clear. White gets the fastest lap, then Bradshaw takes it away, then Thompson takes it away. 50.052 for Ollie Thompson that time round. On the inside, Ralphie Branscombe into P6, gets the move there on Blair Smith. So nicely done through the first corner, and now setting off after the top five. Sutherland and Stoneman only covered by half a second. Branscombe and Spain. Well, actually, it's now Branscombe and Smith, isn't it? Because Spain is catching back up to them. In fact, he's already caught them. And so busy scrapping away in the first half lap that now Smith has got a bit of defending to do here from Ed Spain. And Ed Spain is all over the back of Blair Smith. Ralphie Branscombe is rather loving life in P6, having worked his way there. Looks like there's a battle going on up front. I think I saw White, Bradshaw and Thompson getting very close to each other as they come across the line this time by. Is that going to be a change for the lead? I think I spotted. Still nothing really between White, Bradshaw and Thompson. But up the inside, that's going to be the bid from the 87. Nicely done from Cameron Tipping as he gets past Ashley Haase. So Haase's going to have to try and find a way back into this. Crest, coming down through the chicane. And continuing on the charge. Ashley Haase, still plenty of racing to come from him. But check this out further up. You've got Sutherland and Stoneman dueling for fourth position. I think that might even be Stoneman now in front of Andrew Sutherland. We'll double check as they come through. They're still squabbling away big time. The trouble is, the more you battle earlier into the race, the more you run the risk of losing touch with the drivers up front. You've got to be very careful where you time these overtakes. And it is Stoneman in front of Sutherland. But it's also Smith in front of Spain and Branscombe. So Branscombe's dropped back behind them, and Spain and Branscombe are going to get past Blair Smith here through turn one. Very nicely executed. So as a result of that, they're obviously now going to be trying to target Stoneman and Sutherland up in front, who have pulled just over a second clear. But check out these hand signals from these youngsters. Don't race me, don't overtake me. Let's form up. Let's join a convoy and go up after Stoneman and Sutherland. Then when we join them, we'll try and convince them to step up the attack on the three men up front, because there's 2 seconds to make up on the trio of White, Bradshaw and Thompson. Why is there such a big gap of 2 seconds between third and fourth? Well, it's simple. The top three have not been squabbling with each other for position. They've just been sat nose to tail, waiting for the time to go to battle. But it's not yet. Look at it. They pulled 2.5 seconds on Stoneman. And that's why they are sat in the top three. Because they're just ticking off the tide. Looking after the tyres. Not pushing the cart too hard. This is all about momentum. This is all about timing. White, Bradshaw and Thompson just stretching out the gap. It's huge over Fenton Stoneman in fourth position. Stoneman has got the best of the rest prize for the moment. But if anything kicks off between these three, you know exactly the way it's going to go. For the drivers behind, they're going to take advantage. Right, here comes Theo Bradshaw, the man who started from pole. Ryan White got ahead. And ever since then, he has been in the lead pretty much. But Thompson is still there in third. He still feels he's got a claim to this. This is so tough. And these two teams scrappling away up front. LM Motorsport versus the Zip Factory team. Theo Bradshaw trying to take on Ryan White and Ollie Thompson in the same breath. They go into Paddock Bend. And still Theo Bradshaw desperately trying to seek an opportunity. Meanwhile, fourth and fifth have been caught by Spain and Branscombe. That's why they have been working so hard. And up the inside line, that's Branscombe going wheel to wheel with Stoneman. Sutherland having already got back through. Branscombe's through, Smith is through, and that's at the expense of Fenton Stoneman. So now Andrew Sutherland into fourth, Branscombe into fifth, and Blair Smith up into sixth position. So still they continue diving forward. Here comes Branscombe. Branscombe's going to move into fourth position, and with him comes Blair Smith. So excellent racing. And now the horrors of the battle are going to come forward as the Blair Smith project is to get into fourth position. Sideways, battling for the sixth position up over the top of the crest as Stoneman manages to hold sixth position there in front of a very wayward opposition from Stoneman. So very close mark there. Side by side. Sutherland up on the curbs, and Sutherland has dropped back. So Sutherland has now tumbled all the way to 8th position there as Stoneman and Spain have managed to get through into 6th and 7th places. this is not done. Branscombe versus Smith is the 4th position now, having dealt with first Stoneman and then Sutherland, who sadly has tumbled all the way to 8th position. He's now in danger of losing out to Tipping and Haase. But again, the top 3 have not budged. Branscombe, there's Smith, Fenton Stoneman, then Ed Spain and Andrew Sutherland. But Ryan White continues to hold the lead. We've got a minute and a half still to go. Theo Bradshaw is waiting for his moment. Ollie Thompson right there, 3rd position, hungry as ever. Still, this Honda Cadet battle continues to intensify. We've got so much racing still to come in these last couple of laps. You know they're going to give as good as they've got. And the fact that they have had these battles all ready to build up to what promises to be a bit of a crescendo here. It's definitely going to be an exciting one. We go into the final stages of this race. I think we'll just have 3 laps to go rather than 2. So White, Bradshaw and Thompson, if they start battling on this lap, it really is anybody's race. But look at how far these 3, who have not duelled once at any point through this race, have managed to extend over Smith and Branscombe. The gap is 5 seconds between the top 3 and everybody else. Look at that gap. It's massive. It's absolutely gargantuan. But any moment now, these 3 are going to battle for the victory. And it looks as though all 3 of them are going to be on the podium, but in which order? And if you're Blair Smith, don't stop pushing. You could still make the podium if anything happens to one of these 3. Across the line, and with 2 laps to go, it's going to be pretty much game on from now. White holds the inside line at the apex. Bradshaw and Thompson definitely getting hungrier now. Up over the crest. And Ryan White still trying to protect. Bradshaw looks this way, looks that way. Thompson looking for a run around the outside. But Ryan White is still comfortable in the lead of this race at the moment from Bradshaw and Thompson. He's still got enough to work with. The time has run down to 0, so he's got a lap and a half to fend off from Theo Bradshaw and Ollie Thompson. Can Ryan White do this? Into the left and up towards Luna Bend. This is going to need a little bit of bravery, but it's also going to need good timing. You can't just slingshot and hope. Really got to measure the strategy of this final lap. Here we go. The last lap begins, and it's all up to Ryan White to hold off Theo Bradshaw. Now he's going to go ultra defensive. Watch for the opportunity. Diving through on the inside. Not going to happen. Ollie Thompson hangs back for a moment, just in case something kicks off, which it could well do. Looks like Smith and Branscombe are going wheel to wheel into the first corner as well. But this is where the focus is. Theo Bradshaw trying to make his beat on the inside of Ryan White as they go wheel to wheel, continuing to battle away. Is there going to be an opportunity? Ryan White is holding this beautifully at the apex. Not going to let this get away. Through the left, along the Rogerson straight. This is now or never for Theo Bradshaw. He knows how tough this is going to be. Here's the opportunity. He's through, and so too is Thompson. Talk about perfect timing in Luna Bend, but watch for Ollie Thompson. He's going to have the run out of the final turn. He's going to go side by side with Theo Bradshaw. Ollie Thompson in the box seat for the whole of the final lap. He's going to get there first. Ollie Thompson gets the victory as 3 drivers are covered by 48 thousandths of a second. That is why you never give up. Absolutely brilliant. Ollie Thompson gets the win in front of Theo Bradshaw and Ryan White.
Ollie Thompson, pop your feet just there, sir, so we can have a little chat to you. Ollie Thompson, talk me through the dying seconds of that race.
It was really intense. Like, I pushed Theo through on Ryan, and then Theo made a mistake and ran wide, and I managed to just get alongside him and took the win. And Ryan pushed me home for the win.
Well, huge congratulations to you. Well done, Ollie. Now, listen, talk me through the last few laps as well, because you 3 were in a bit of a train there, working as a team in each other's draft. In your head, are you thinking, I'm just going to sit here because I'm going to bide my time?
Yeah, I was just hoping, like, I could just get it on the last moment, and I did, so I'm very happy.
You really should be happy. 5th last time out, 1st this time. Who would you like to thank?
LMM, Lenny, Connor for the data, my mum, my dad, my brothers and sisters, and yeah, that's it.
Art racing, and you've been on the receiving end of some pretty rough luck recently.
Yeah, there was nothing really I could do coming out that corner. It was the corner, and you'd always kind of go wide out the corner. They just like went wide so they could go in tight, and well, I just couldn't get across in time because I was just, yeah.
Listen, well done to you, mate. You're a fantastic driver. It's not a nice position to be in. You were leading lap after lap after lap, running in the front of that train. Talk me through what's going through your mind when you know you're leading a train of 2 drivers behind you who are a bit good.
Well, it was more, I was just hoping they'd wait until the last lap to battle, just because I'm usually quite decent at defending, but I just couldn't defend there, so yeah.
As we bring in Theo Bradshaw, the helmet is on, Theo, in tears under there. Talk me through, mate, what's going on? You got a podium in Micromax and you've just podiumed in Honda Cadet.
Yeah, I was coming over the line. Ryan pushed Ollie Thompson over, which screwed me up. So then I unfortunately got second.
Well, listen, mate, don't be disappointed with second. You're fully in the mix. You've had a great weekend. Second is, you know, a step of the podium that other racers haven't got themselves on. And you're on 2 podiums today, Micromax and Honda. It's an emotional sport and it's a difficult sport, karting. But I mean, you've got to be pleased. You've got to try and put a smile on it.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the Micromax getting my first podium, but I feel like I could have done better in the Honda.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
Moving on to a class now then that was new to UKC in 2023, Mini Inter, that has become a real hit with both returning drivers and newcomers alike. At the top of the championship table, it's been dominated by 2 drivers, Jacob Ashcroft of Dan Holland Racing and Charlie Wolfett of Synergy. Jacob won the opening 2 rounds and Charlie was second, but at round 3 that got reversed. Charlie took the win and Jacob was second. What will happen this weekend? Well, let's go and have a chat to the lads and find out.
Hi, I'm Charlie Wolfett. I race in Mini Inter and I'm number 195. So far this weekend, we've been doing really well. We struggled in practice yesterday because I've never been to the track before, but today we found really good pace. Synergy are at GIG this weekend, testing for next weekend for the British. So I managed to get a space in Ultimate R, and yeah, the guys have been really helpful doing camera footage, and yeah. This weekend, come Sunday night, I'm only going to be happy with the top step of the podium. My name is Jacob Ashcroft. I'm number 122 and I race in Mini Inter. I really enjoy this track, especially from the downhill fast smoothly chicane. I like getting my overtakes after turn 2. I like switching back over the hill and go up there inside. So that's probably my main spot for overtaking. Yeah, I enjoyed racing against Charlie. I mean, in round 1, I dominated at Wilton Mill by winning the heat, super heat, and the final. But in Larkle, I had some bad starts at Larkle round 2. So but it was wet in the end on the race day, on the finals day, and I managed to get some really good results in the wet. I'm obviously hoping to win, but let's hope we can have a good battle and see what happens.
So let's see how it plays out between Charlie and Jacob this weekend as we go and join your race commentator, Jake Sanson.
It's going to be a properly competitive mini inter-final. Charlie Wolford and Jacob Ashcroft on the front row from Minto, Hill, Very, Khan, Clark and Lines. Let's race at Three Sisters. It's almost going to be 3 wide down to the first corner as they turn in through the S's. But Charlie Wolford and Jacob Ashcroft seem to have held position. They go up over the top of the crest. A little bit of jockeying for position in the middle. The drone is really struggling to keep up with them. But we continue to battle in fine style as we make good progress here at the start. And everybody is mixing it very nicely indeed as the competitors continue to give us plenty of excitement out there. So, up at the front end of the field, already a very clean start actually. Everybody's kept it nice and tidy despite a couple of near misses. Looking for a way past Isabella Stansmore-Wilson, going wheel to wheel further back. Battles everywhere you look. We're watching White trying to get past Bailey Wolf. So Oliver White was trying to mix it there to go for the overtaking move. All 21 drivers that should have started this race are still going. But it's Wolfit who leads Ashcroft, then Minto and Hill, Very, Lines, Khan, Condy, Collinson, Stansmore-Wilson and Clark. Then it is Jake Rafferty in front of Jack Cordingley. And then we have Harris Ali making a good bid from 18th up to 14th. Then White, Wolf, Radcliffe, Mackay, Surtees, Webster, and at the back it's JJ Lowe. Superhero from last year, don't forget JJ Lowe. In the Honda Cadets, now trying to make the same kind of magic happen in mini inters. Still a long way to go. They continue to battle away up on the far side of the course. They have worked their way out of Paddock Bend, along the Rogerson Straight, and then here they come into Luna at the bowl. But Charlie Wolfit, 2.2 seconds in front of Ashcroft. Then Minto, Hill and Very. Lines in P6. Khan, Condy, Collinson and Clark rounding out the top 10 from Isabella Stansmore-Wilson and then Jake Rafferty in front of Harris Ali, who's made up another place, up to 13th position, as Hill is still trying to shake off Charlie Very. And behind Harris Ali, we've got Oliver White doing a fair job in 14th, in front of Jack Cordingley. Lost a little bit of ground. Louis Radcliffe. Then it is, of course, Zach Mackay, who started from the back of the grid. JJ Lowe's made progress up to 18th, then Elliot Surtees. And then we have Mason Webster and Bailey Wolf having some great battles out there on the course. Back on board with Thomas Hill. Up the crest, dropping down to the S's. Right, left, brake, right. Continue to carry as much speed as you can, Tom, because Charlie Very is not going to give you an easy time of it. And still, they battle away. A very strong race from Charlie Wolfit so far. 2.6 seconds clear of Jacob Ashcroft. And it's all going very well indeed. And Minto, Hill, Very and Lines in the top 6. Still having a great race of it. And then Hasnain Khan running in 7th position, trying to close up on the top 6 drivers. But so far, so good for Charlie Wolfit. There is the man up in front, dominating proceedings. Even Jacob Ashcroft can't keep up with Charlie Wolfit today. And normally, Jacob Ashcroft has the Midas touch in the UKC. Everything he touches pretty much turns to gold. But so far, Charlie Wolfit is the king of Wigan. Down the pit straight. And still these three continue to tussle, continue to duel. Minto, Hill, Very. A few car lengths back, you've still got Finley Lines. He still feels he's got an opportunity to say something about this. If these three do connect, he can be right there for a crack at the podium. Through Luna Bend once again. It's just about letting these laps tick down. As long as you're in the zone, as long as you have a chance to be competitive in the closing stages, this is all going to be good. Right, Minto's going defensive. He clearly feels he can't keep up with Ashcroft, but he wants to hang on to 3rd position. Thomas Hill was trying to gesture to Dan Minto. Come on, let's work together. But Dan Minto clearly feels all he can get from this is 3rd position. So it's now time to cover. Onto the pit straight again. And Dan Minto, this is such a demoralising position for a driver to be in. You know that this is all you can get. So you've just got to now block, move and cover for the rest of the race and hope that the drivers behind you aren't going to take advantage of your defensive tactics. You can see Thomas Hill getting quite thirsty behind Minto. He doesn't want a gentle sip at 3rd position. Now he wants a decent gulp. Down On the straight, and again, Dan Minto defending. Thomas Hill getting frustrated. We've still got minutes to go here, Dan. You're going to back us into the pack if you keep this up. So Thomas Hill getting frustrated. But Jacob Ashcroft still there in second place. 3.4 back from Wolfit. Then Minto, Hill and Vary. Finley Lyons has actually caught them up a little bit. And that's why Lyons was hoping they would duel, because the more they duel, the more time they lose, and the more time he can gain. Then Hasnain Khan. Charlie Condi in a very solid 8th place in front of Stanley Clark and Isabella Stansmore-Wilson, now having worked her way to P10. Back on board with Tom Hill. Through Luna. Tighter apex for Thomas Hill. But Dan Minto is holding on to 3rd position. Thomas Hill leans forward in the kart, hoping he can get a little bit more speed down the straight, which he clearly can. He's edged closer to Dan Minto. Through 1, through 2. You can see how loose the back of the car wants to get from Dan Minto. So Thomas Hill waiting for an opportunity. He doesn't take it down the drop, but onto the pit straight he may get his opportunity. Just can't quite get the purchase on the throttle though. So Charlie Wolfit, another fast lap, 46 flat. But these three, it's irresistible to watch. Minto, Hill and Vary. You still really can't predict which way it's going to go between the three of them, because they haven't even really started the battle yet. The race really starts on the penultimate lap, which is not this one, but the one after it. And as long as you're in contention for the top 3, anything can happen. And again, Minto has to move to cover and defend. Thomas Hill's had enough. Tries to go on the inside, can't get there. This will be so frustrating for Thomas Hill. He's just blocking us. Now here he goes, up over the top. Tries his best, he had to bail out of it. Discretion, the better part of valour there for Thomas Hill. Just wait, just pick your moment. Minto still defending. Thomas Hill trying to cut in on the inside. Still can't get through. And Charlie Vary is watching all this with a big grin on his face. You two just hold each other up. I'll pick my moment and take it off you both, thanks. But there's still the 2 laps remaining in this race to figure that out. Wolfit has 4.2 seconds on Jacob Ashcroft. Dan Minto, Thomas Hill and Charlie Vary. Here comes Minto again, defending. Thomas Hill trying to cut back in. It's well read by Minto, but Thomas Hill is going to be all over the back of him, up over the curbs. Still holding the middle of the road. Thomas Hill absolutely fuming in 4th position. Come on, Dan, stop weaving around. This is defensive tactics from Minto. He clearly feels he cannot gain any more than 3rd position from this race. Charlie Vary keeping a watching brief in 5th position. Over the curbs. Minto, Hill, Vary. Time has run down to 0. There's only going to be 1 lap to run at the end of the 16th lap. They come off the Luna Bend. Watch for Charlie Vary. He's got a good exit. So Thomas Hill's got to pile the pressure on Dan Minto. Minto's going to defend. Down the straight we go. This is not going to be easy to settle. Minto covers. Hill and Vary are now right up behind. Finley Lyons wants to stay hungry on this last lap as well. You never know. He might end up in the top 5 here. Down the hill. Thomas Hill is doing everything he can. Minto's covering every inch of the circuit. Try as he might, he can't. Red flag, red flag. The red flag is being waved. So the race is being stopped. On the last lap, there must have been an incident somewhere. Thomas Hill bangs his steering wheel in frustration. He doesn't get the chance to go for the victory on the podium run. So the race is stopped early. And that's very unfortunate for Thomas Hill. Now, in the final reckoning, Jacob Ashcroft is going to get the victory. Unfortunately, a post-race penalty for Charlie Wolfit. He has not complied with scrutineering. Very unfortunate. A win is taken from him then. So Ashcroft gets it from Minto and Hill. He does get the podium. Charlie Vary in front of Finley Lyons, Hasnain Khan, Condi Clark, Stansmore-Wilson and Jack Collinson in the top 10.
Jacob, I mean, you look to have that kart running really, really well, but Charlie had his running just a little bit better than yours, it seemed. You guys were streets ahead of the rest, but he was a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah, I was trying my best to catch him, but I just couldn't. In some part of the tracks I was better, and the other parts he was a lot better than me.
What positives can you take from this weekend, nonetheless?
Well, I tried my best, and I now know the track a lot better than I did.
Yeah, you certainly do. And as we look at the championship table, you were leading coming to this one. I think with that 2nd place, you'll still be leading as you go away from it.
I'm not really sure about the points, but I don't think we can make Rara, so I'm going to have a good round at Clay Pigeon.
Dan, it is another weekend and another podium for you. 3rd last time out, 3rd time again. You've got to be pleased, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm really pleased.
Talk us through that super final there. The two lads in front of you, well, they were streets ahead of the rest, but you were doing your best to chase them, weren't you?
I just followed Charlie Wolfett through, and then and then Ashcroft got past, and I was just trying to follow him, and then Ashcroft pulled.
Yeah, exactly. They pulled away from the pair of you. A little bit of a battle in the mix there with Thomas Hill as well. He's had a good weekend in his zip cart, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
So we finish our highlights programme with Junior Rotax, where once again we've got a bumper entry list. 51 drivers fighting out for just 34 places on the grid in Sunday's Super Final. As we look at the top of the championship table, it's Jack Hobson who's leading from Ultima R. Just behind him is Ollie Stevens, and just behind him is Finn Leslie. And interestingly, Finn Leslie of Cato Motorsport has podiumed at every round, but is yet to take an overall weekend win. So I caught up with him earlier on to ask if he thinks that might change this time around.
Hi, I'm Phil Leslie, car number 26, racing Junior Rotax this weekend. Well, I feel like the work we've been putting in towards this championship has been quite significant. And obviously, every round and getting better. We had a third place at Larkhorn and a second place at Warden Law. But the driver for Warden Law isn't actually competing in a championship, so overall, we sort of collected the most points out of that, which I was very happy with, which brought us about 9 points behind the championship leader. Yeah, I mean, Cota's been doing this a very long time. He obviously knows what he's talking about, and he really does help me over the weekend. I mean, just coaching and just tell me these little things that, you know, I feel like really do help. Come Sunday night, I'll only really be happy if we come away this weekend leading the championship, as I feel like that's the momentum that we need to be able to bring us forward.
Well, best of luck to Finn and indeed all the other 33 drivers who have made it to the Super Final for this one. Here's your race commentator, Jake Sanson.
Are you guys ready for some fireworks, Three Sisters style? The Junior Rotax field certainly are. Hobson versus Ingram off the front row. Stevens, Buttle, Mentia, Leslie, Goff, Carl, let's race. First corner, on board with Archie Buttle. That is Freddie Ingram in front of us, so he's already mixing it for the battle for the victory. Drivers work their way through. Nice battles going on in the midfield there. Addison Smith and Jared Fox-Whiteley just trying to keep it nice and steady on the opening lap. Plenty of drivers gunning for the victory. Lizzie Mentia getting her elbows out there, dueling with Finn Leslie and getting through. Leslie losing a couple of places as they work their way up towards Luna for the first time. A very exciting start. Whoa, it's getting a little bit tricky for Lewis Goff to hold on here. Jack West is diving through, and behind them, we've got the 313 of Finley Buck. Terrific racecraft on the first lap. I've got a feeling this is going to be one of those races. Up on the inside, into lap 2. Ollie Stevens goes P2. He dives in on Jack Hobson. So Freddie Ingram out in front, then Hobson, Stevens, Buttle, Mentia, Carl, Leslie. Over the curbs. A couple of drivers kicking up the dust as they drop down the hill. Looking for a good opportunity to work their way forward. Oh, that's Matthew Sayer. Matthew Sayer's gone off, and Riven Welsh has nowhere to go. Spins off down the hill himself. So you've got to feel for Sayer and for Riven Welsh, as their races are already compromised big time. They will have to rejoin from the back of the queue. All the drivers mixing it. We're having a good race of it as we watch Rhys Bailey going through Luna Bend. Rhys Bailey is the one trying to take on the challenge of Jared Fox-Whiteley and Addison Smith. We ride back on board with Archie Buttle, and that is Finn Leslie directly behind us. And we're trying to challenge Lizzie Mentia. Diving through the inside, and Buttle's gone through. Has Leslie gone through? No, Lizzie Mentia hanging on. Very nicely done, and that's at the expense of Alex Cull, I do believe. I think managing to get through there into position. Great racing all around this junior Rotax grid. My goodness me. Ingram out in front by only 0.4 of a second now. Stevens and Hobson are chipping away. Buttle in P4. And then we've got Carl, Leslie and Mentia. Lizzie Mentia doing her best to close in on Alex Cull and Finn Leslie. These two having a great squabble. 8th place is West. Then it's Buck, Goff, Fox-Whiteley, Smith and Turner on the inside. Leslie's going to dive in on Cull, and so is Lizzie Mentia. They both get through, P5 and P6. So over the chicane they go, up the crest, then down the drop, right, left, right. Onto the pit straight again. Fastest lap is changing hands several times on this lap. Jack West is the one who comes good. 43.868 for him. Diving through on the inside of the 51 of Lewis Goff. That is Addison Smith trying to make the place. Can't quite make it happen. So still they duel away. A phenomenal scrap, but Ingram only has 0.4 on Stevens, who only has 0.3 on Hobson, who only has 0.2 on Buttle. This race is alive and kicking and has got so much to come. We're on board with Buttle. That's the gap back to the following cavalry of carts. But check it out, under brakes, they're able to gain a lot of time. Buttle is already chasing down Jack Hobson, the original man on pole. Hobson now down in 3rd position. Watch a little further back. This is still the duel between Jared Fox-Whiteley trying to get past Finley Buck. Can't quite stay with him. Further up the road, you've got the 22 of Jared Fox-Whiteley being caught by Lewis Goff. And Leslie now bangs in the fastest lap of the race. They work their way through Luna. And definitely it's going to be tight now because Stevens is battling with Hobson. Battling with Ingram, I should say. Hobson is still there in the top 4, but up the inside, that's going to be Ollie Stevens for the lead. And he gets through. Ollie Stevens takes the lead at a critical moment, so Freddie Ingram is now going to be the chaser rather than the one being chased. Come down to the final turn of that section, and they're going to go side by side, and back on the inside, Ingram retakes the lead past Ollie Stevens. So Jack Hobson is right there in 3rd position. He wants a piece of this again as Mentia loses out to Finn Leslie. So Finn Leslie now in P5. Mentia trying not to lose more ground than that. Carl, West and Buck are not that far behind. But Ingram, Stevens, Hobson and Buttle are the top 4. 5th position, Finn Leslie. Up the inside comes Jack Cull. He's going to get some assistance from Jack West as they will both drive past Lizzie Mentia. But the lead is going defensive. Ingram hanging on from Stevens, Hobson and Buttle. 9.5 on the clock. Up the crest. And Ingram actually covering Stevens, defending a little bit at this point in the race. He wants to back Stevens into the path of Hobson and Buttle, let the 3 of them squabble amongst themselves, and then he'll pull a bit of breathing space up the inside. Buttle has a look, can't get through. Still side by side with him though. Then tucks back in, looking for the switcheroo. Off the turn. Hobson's held that well. Nice duck and cover. Through the hairpin at Luna. Hold it, back on the power. Accelerating up again and hoping for a little bit of slipstream here on Hobson. He's going to have great toe and great momentum. He will dive through, no problem. Buttle up to 3rd. Great move from Archie Buttle. So into 3rd position goes the KR Sport driver, having a great run of it. There's not a lot of response just yet that Jack Hobson can execute. Ingram's still in front of Ollie Stevens for the time being. There is still so much to do in this race. A long way still to go around Three Sisters. It's not everybody running at the sharp end. A few drivers have ended up dropping back, unfortunately. We're just outside the top 10. We've got Goff in front of Smith, I think, in 12th position. Addison Smith still doing well. Then Reese Bailey in front of the 275. That is Zach Turner. Up the inside comes Stevens. He retakes the lead again. So a nice bid there from Stevens. He manages to get back into first position in front of Ingram. Then Buttle. And then it's Hobson and Leslie. Leslie has caught up to the quartet up front. So now it's a quintet going for the victory. Stevens leads Ingram. Then it is Buttle, Hobson and Leslie. Then Cole, West, Mentia, Buck, Fox Whiteley. Goff, Smith, Bailey and Turner. Then Zane Quaker in 15th position. And Finn Leslie now bangs in the fastest lap. 43.007 for Finn Leslie. But this race is not done. If anything, it's just begun. Still some great battles continuing on the charge. We've got so much to look forward to as this race continues to develop. On the curbs and then along the Conrod straight. Still the drivers duel for position. Here's oh, big problem, and off goes Finn Leslie. He just missed his turn in, and unfortunately he tangles with Hobson and Buttle. That's caused a massive conflagration. That was a big error from Finn Leslie, but it's definitely caused chaos amongst the leaders. So I'm afraid Finn Leslie has got that slightly wrong, and it's cost big time. It's really shuffled the deck as well. We've got several drivers now trying to fight their way into contention. A few big gains, trying to pick up on who it is that's made the most ground. We're with Archie Battle, and that is the 114 of Jack Hobson in front of us. So Jack Hobson obviously still battling away with Archie Battle. He's got a chance. Battle will dive through. No worries there. So Battle and Hobson, they are still dueling for position, but they're definitely a long way back from where they were.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
Hobson had his hand in the air there. He gesturing to a marshal. Hobson and Buttle are now your race leaders, of course. West in third, Mentia in fourth from Carl, Leslie, then Fox Whiteley and Freddie Ingram all the way down in 8th position. So Ingram's had his problems and has now got to try and fight his way back into contention. Here they come. West is now battling away with Mentia. This is for 3rd position. Lizzie Mentia with a chance to get on the podium. She's not going to ask twice. Finn Leslie in 5th position. Hobson dueling with Archie Buttle. Stop it! Stop defending the position. We've got to get away from these guys. If they catch us, we are mincemeat. Up over the top of the crest again. Archie Buttle still hanging on to the lead. But clearly now that he's got the lead, he doesn't feel he's got the pace to pull away from Hobson. West is 3rd. Then Mentia. Then Leslie. Here comes the cavalry. And that's led by Freddie Ingram. Ingram's got back into 6th position past Carl. Then Fox Whiteley is 8th from Goff, Buck, Smith, Stevens, Turner, Bailey and Quaker. That little twitch from Leslie really has shaken things up big time in this race. We are not done yet, folks. Just under 4 minutes left on the timing screens. And as they come across the line, Hobson and Buttle are battling for the victory. Buttle just in front of Hobson for the time being. Lizzie Mentia can sense that a podium is possible. She's there behind Jack West and in front of Finn Leslie. They continue to challenge away. Jack West is doing a terrific job. He has made up 8 places so far from his starting position. And Lizzie Mentia, who started up in the top 5, is still there. Looking good for the podium. That is a retirement. That is Morgan Hudson-Brown. So Morgan Hudson-Brown is out of the race. Very unfortunate indeed. But again, Archie Buttle still battling and still defending from Hobson. This is just going to bring the drivers into the squabble. This is going to bring everybody forward now. I sense the frustration, mounting a pace up the inside, diving through. There goes the overtake from Buttle to hold on in front of Hobson, and Mentia has dropped back behind Leslie. Look at the squabble now as Buttle again moves to cover from Hobson. Ingram having got through to 3rd position, I do believe. Sorry, through to 5th position, I should say. Buttle is still defending. Here comes Jack West on the inside of Hobson. Can't get through. Then Finn Leslie in 4th. Ingram is 5th. Mentia in 6th. But still, they squabble. Cut this battle loose. It's going to be electric right to the flag. Jack West now has a chance for the win. So does Finn Leslie in 4th position. They come off the turn down the Conrad straight. And it's Buttle, Hobson, West, Leslie, Ingram, Mentia holding the inside line with everything he's worth, Archie Buttle. West is going to get alongside him to battle for the victory. 3 wide as they come off the turn. Leslie and Hobson cut across. And Ingram's managed to gain 2 places out of all of that. And bouncing around. Ingram's going to get the move there on Hobson. Hobson didn't have enough traction as 2 wheels went in the air. So Ingram has worked his way to 2nd position. Leslie is 3rd. 4th is West. 5th is Mentia. This race is brilliant. So out in front now is Archie Buttle. But surely Buttle can't hang on to this. He's doing everything he can. But he has got a little bit of breathing space. So Buttle is now in front of Ingram. 1:40 to go still in this race. Leslie is pushing hard here behind Ingram. And now off goes Finn Leslie. Finn Leslie's gone off. He's actually surged on the far side of the course here. He's gone straight on at Pentith Climb, and he's going to rejoin out of Joey Dunlop corner, I do believe. So that's gone very badly wrong for Finn Leslie. No, I think he's out of it. He's been given the black flag, that's why. So Finn Leslie, I'm afraid, has been given the black flag. So that has got to be for one of the incidents earlier on in the race. But Finn Leslie has been told to get off the track. Very disappointing indeed for Finn Leslie. That's crucial at this stage of the season too. So Ingram has caught Buttle. They're going to battle for the victory now, the teammates. Here comes the opportunity for Ingram. Thank you very much. What a comeback from Freddie Ingram. He has worked his way to the lead, and Lizzie Mentia has got past Jack West for 3rd. So she is looking good for the podium. On board with Archie Buttle, still trying to close in on Freddie Ingram. We've got time for things to change again. But Archie Buttle is all over the back of teammate Freddie Ingram. Still having a terrific squabble. But can Archie Buttle sustain the pressure? Mentia doing a fantastic job. She actually has the fastest lap of the race, Lizzie Mentia. She is there in 3rd position. And the way they're squabbling now, I'm not sure anybody's going to beat that fastest lap. Here we go, 2 to go. Ingram, Buttle, Mentia. Mentia defending a little now from West. And into 5th has come Jared Fox-Whiteley as still they battle, Archie Buttle and Freddie Ingram for the victory. Ingram is trying to back Buttle into the pack. Lizzie Mentia's got a chance here now because she's caught up to both of them. Can Lizzie Mentia go for the victory here with 3 sisters? Still they squabble. Archie Buttle all over the back of Freddie Ingram. Can this be turned around? A battle in the middle of the road. Still squabbling away. Jared Fox-Whiteley has come onto the back of this quartet of drivers to make it a quintet. And as we go into the final lap, things are going to get spicy now for the win. Has Ingram got enough to hold the lead of this one? It's going to be very tricky. Mentia trying to hang on in behind Archie Buttle. But Jack West is getting hungry too. Here we go, squabbling away. Oh, a big lunge there from Buttle. Chops across on Lizzie Mentia, who drops back behind West. My goodness me, that was tough stuff there. And a very tricky situation as Archie Buttle gets ruthless on the final lap. then that's all going to be to Freddie Ingram's advantage. Buttle is going to hold second place, but that's allowed Freddie Ingram to run away for the victory. So Freddie Ingram, having dropped all the way to 8th at one point, has fought his way back. A brilliant run. Freddie Ingram takes the win at Three Sisters. What an amazing drive. Brilliant stuff.
How about that one, mate? Talk us through it. What's going through your head right now?
Nothing. I can't speak. Yeah, it was such a hard race. It's so hot out there. And I don't know how I got to first from that crash, but it is what it is, and just won it. So.
You started in first, involved in an incident. I saw you drop way back. Next thing I know, a lap or two later, I'm looking at the timing screens and you're back in the mix. It's game on again.
Yeah, I mean, going down the straight, I went for an overtake, and I think the person behind me did as well. So we went 3-1, just hit each other. And then we both went on the grass, so I was dropped back to about 13th. And I just fought my way back from there, making as many overtakes as possible.
As many as possible, and you got them all done right through to the top step of the podium. Well done, mate. Who would you like to thank?
KR Sport Engines, Jamie Rogers on the spanners, my mum, my dad, DWL Carpentry, All Serve Ltd, and yeah, just the whole team for everything.
One of the most eventful races that I think we've ever seen in Junior Road Tax, Archie. Can you put it into words?
Not really. I mean, it's great for the team, really, just 1, 2, 3. But it's probably one of the hardest races I've done. I led for a bit of it, but I'm just happy it's gone to my teammate and no one else, really.
Phenomenal. And what about the man in front of you, Freddie Ingram? Great race from him. What about the man behind you, Jack West? He started back in 11th.
Yeah, great race for him. He's had great pace. He got disqualified from one of the heats, so really good comeback for him. He just shows what he can do, really.
Jack, talk me through that one. You should probably have the biggest smile on your face out of anyone, maybe.
I started 11th, got a good start. It was like about 10 minutes of the switching. I was 4th, and then Lizzie went a bit wide, and I managed to get 3rd. Oh, I can't believe I've done that.
Lizzie's been quick all weekend. I've been keeping an eye on her, and I was thinking, do you know what? She's going to nick 3rd here. But then, like you say, just ran wide, and you were ready to take advantage.
Yeah, I had to flip it. It was like right in front of me as well, so I had to quickly dive to the left, and I thought I was making the corner because it was going down the valley. I was on the outside. I was like, oh, I'm not making it. I just about make it, and I had to park it for the rest of the lap.
Well done to you, and what a result for the team. A clean sweep on the podium, maybe the first time ever in UKC.
Yeah, it was a good result. I mean, Archie done well the whole thing. Freddie managed to come back after a little incident. Oh, I don't know how I managed to do it.
Well, there we go. Another weekend of kart racing comes to a close. Round 4 of the 2023 Pass Me Fast Ultimate Karting Championship is in the books. Huge congratulations to our 3 class winners in this programme. Ollie Thompson, Jacob Ashcroft and Freddie Ingram. Oh boy, what a race that was in Junior Road Tax. Huge congratulations to all the KR Sport team as well. Next time you join us, it'll be round 5 when we head to Dorchester and the mighty Clay Pigeon Raceway. Until then, though, from myself, Kev Harris, and all of the team here in the Northwest, see ya.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
As part of the Forney Museum, we always like to share the history of this collection. The beginning of this collection started with a 1921 Kissel Tourister, and that particular vehicle was a gift from Mrs. Forney and their 2 children. And the idea was to try and keep Mr. Forney at home once in a while so that he wasn't always at Forney Industries. Unfortunately, their plan to create a hobby for him to stay at home didn't work out. The car was promptly taken to the nearby Forney Industries facility, and hence that became the beginning of this collection. So in 1968, J.D. Forney partnered with a very prominent Denver physician and surgeon by the name of Dr. James Arneal. And Dr. Arneal's connection to the collection, if you will, was the rail component. So as we begin the tour, we'll go down this way, and I'll show some examples of the Forney welding equipment that made this particular collection possible. Here we have a variety of Forney welding equipment on display that dates from probably the late 1930s, early 40s, up through probably about the 1980s. And so it gives some early examples of some of the equipment that Forney Industries produced here locally. In addition to that, we also have some portraits of our founding members. We have a portrait over here of J.D. and Rachel Forney, and they're the ones that started the collection, and they were both very active until their passings in the late 1980s and early 90s. The other gentleman I talked about a little bit earlier was Dr. James Arneal, whose portrait we also have here, and Dr. Arneal was active in the collection from about 1968 well into the 1970s. Next up is the vehicle that started it all, as I like to put it. Here we have our 1921 Kissel Tourister, and as you can see, it's partially disassembled. The vehicle had not been run in probably about 30-35 years, and when our volunteers attempted to get the vehicle running again, some of the very antiquated components failed, and so we are in a process right now of raising some funds to try and get it back on the road. We're likely going to have to source some craftsmen to custom make some of the components that failed and that need to be replaced at this time. So the next exhibit I'd like to talk a little bit about is this 1923 Kissel Gold Bug. And this particular vehicle was actually Amelia Earhart, the famous aviator's first automobile. And as the story has been relayed to us, Amelia and her mother traveled from the Boston area where they resided at the time, and they took the train to Los Angeles. And while in Los Angeles, they met up with her father, and he decided to assist her in purchasing this particular vehicle. And this Kissel Gold Bug was then driven by Amelia and her mother cross-country north along the west coast into southern Canada, and then from southern Canada back into Massachusetts. And I can only imagine what it must have been like for 2 women in 1923 or 24 to be driving an open car on unimproved roads with really no network of hotels, gas stations, so on and so forth. So I think Amelia proved herself early on to be just as daring when piloting an automobile as she would have been flying one of her airplanes. If we move further down here, you'll see a couple of examples of some more significant automobiles. On loan to us is this very unusual and very beautifully restored 1914 Cadillac touring car. Next to me here, we have this 1934 Pierce Arrow 12-cylinder. As vehicles became available or JD took an interest in a particular vehicle, sometimes he would purchase them outright, sometimes he would barter and trade one existing vehicle for another, and so our collection varies, everything from an 1899 steam-powered locomobile all the way up now. More recently, we've even accepted automobiles from the 1980s that we feel are significant and worth preserving in the collection. One of the things we also try to do is we try to invite private owners and collectors to display their vehicles here at the museum. And to my right and left, I have a couple of examples of that. For example, this particular vehicle here is a 1947 Nash 600 sedan. and this particular vehicle is owned by a local family. It was their mother's car, and for her 80th birthday, her three sons restored the car and presented it to her, and it's such a beautiful example of a 1940s Nash that we invited them to display it here on a short-term loan. And then to my left here we have an extremely unusual and rare vehicle. This is a 1938 Coleman 5-ton highway department winch truck, and this particular truck was actually built locally here in the neighboring community to Denver of Littleton, Colorado. And the Coleman Truck Company was actually founded in 1918, and they built purpose-built vehicles until about 1980 or 81. And as you can see here, it's quite a massive piece of equipment. And this particular truck was found in the mountains in a small town called Minturn, Colorado. And it used to plow the roads as well as pull vehicles out of ditches on the highway between Minturn and Leadville, Colorado. And this particular vehicle is on long-term loan to us by the world's largest Coleman truck collector, who happens to be based out of California. And he actually grew up in Littleton and was acquainted with the family who owned Coleman trucks. And one of the unique features about Coleman trucks is they were actually one of the pioneers of four-wheel drive. Another unusual vehicle we have on loan at the present time is this 1955 Hudson Wasp Custom Hollywood two-door hardtop. And in 1954, the independent vehicle manufacturer Hudson merged with Nash automobiles, and we just saw that beautiful 1947 Nash across the way. Well, when those two companies merged, they formed American Motors Corporation, AMC, and a lot of people will remember AMC for two primary products, the Rambler and then the Jeep. And the Jeep name, of course, continues today and was purchased in the 1980s by Chrysler Corporation when American Motors ceased their own production. This particular vehicle is unusual in that it's sort of a hybrid. After the two companies merged in 1954, the Hudsons were Nash-based automobiles. It was basically a Nash with Hudson trim, and this particular example did still use a Hudson power plant called the Twin H. It was a flathead six-cylinder with dual carburetors. But one of the unique features that was passed on to Hudson that Nash pioneered was the fact that the seats fold back and meet the rear seat and create a bed. It's one of the iconic automobiles that I think everybody in the world is familiar with. That's part of our collection here is this 1959 Volkswagen Beetle. This was very generously donated to us a few years ago and is one of the more popular things that we display, and we take it out to car shows and such, and people always like seeing the original Volkswagen Beetle. In contrast, at the same period of time, we have here a privately owned vehicle. This is a 1957 Dodge Royal Lancer, and you can sort of compare the Beetle to the Dodge, and you can see what a major contrast there was between that German compact import and then an American vehicle at the time. This particular vehicle is owned by one of our longtime volunteers and is an original example with only about 27,000 original miles on it, and is certainly an iconic example of the mid-century modern era and of Chrysler's rather, how shall we say, outlandish designs of the time. Not quite as conservative as what the Europeans were doing then. So one of the unique features about the Forney Museum that we started about a dozen years ago is that every 3 to 4 months we rotate out a special exhibit. And those special exhibits vary and can be anything from trucks to motorcycles, vintage, camping trailers, but primarily they're different types of automobile related themes. Our current exhibit that's on display through the end of January are Triumph automobiles. And for example, here behind me, we have an extremely rare example of a Triumph This is a 1960 Triumph TRS Le Mans racer, and this is one of 4 vehicles that was built for the Le Mans race, and it was raced in 1960 and 61. And of the 4 that were originally built, all 4 do survive, and this is an original unrestored example here, and is basically as you would have seen it coming off the racetrack in 1960 or 61. Another very significant Triumph-based automobile that I'd like to show you is this 1960 Triumph-based Italia 2000. And this particular silver sports coupe here has an all-aluminum handcrafted body, and this is one of only 329 that were manufactured. There was a Triumph dealer in Naples, Italy, and this particular gentleman was a big fan of the Triumph sports cars, but he wanted to create something a little more unique that could sort of highlight the Triumph drivetrain, but also have sort of more of an Italian custom designed look. A lot of people, when they've been coming in to see this exhibit, at first assume that it's a James Bond Aston Martin. As we go further through the Triumph exhibit, I'm going to point out a couple of the more significant pieces. We have pretty much a full complement of Triumphs from 1929 all the way through the end of their production in 1981. One of the more significant automobiles, and sort of was the first foray into the American market by Triumph, is this 1949 Triumph 2000. And this is on loan to us by a Triumph enthusiast and collector in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And this particular vehicle is very unique in that not only is it a very elegant looking roadster, somewhat resembling a Daimler or a Jaguar of the period, but it also has a very, very unique jump seat setup. And if you look closely, you'll see that the trunk area actually houses 2 folding small jump seats. And in addition to that, part of the what we would call the trunk lid, or the boot, as the British would say, actually contains a windshield, so that the rear passengers are protected from the wind in addition to the front seat driver and passenger.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
As we continue through the Triumph exhibit, I want to point out 3 very similar roadsters. We have this red one right here from 1968. We have another 1968 example here in light yellow, as well as this gorgeous midnight blue. And for whatever reason, the Triumph automobiles were in series, model series. And for example, some of the early ones were called the TR2. They progressed to the TR3, TR4, and logically the TR5 would have been the next example. However, for the US market, what would have been the TR5 was labeled the TR250. And so the yellow and red examples are US spec Triumphs. However, this navy blue one is actually a European version that was delivered new in Germany. And it, in fact, was called a TR5. What's unique about these is they had what was called a Surrey top. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the center section of the top, which is actually a hard top, is removable. However, if you want to open the car even further, you can also remove the rear window portion. And the unique difference between the American and the European versions of the TR5 is that the US spec ones were actually equipped with carburetors, because the fuel-injected version that was sold in Europe actually wouldn't pass US emission standards of the late 1960s, and so as a result, the US spec TR5s continued with the traditional carburetor setup. One of the more well-known Triumph models in the United States, and I think when a lot of people think of Triumph, the name Spitfire comes to mind. And this particular example here, which is finished in a very unique aqua blue, actually belongs to one of the Fording Museum's volunteers. And she helped to organize and spearhead this particular exhibit. And she owns and drives this Spitfire very regularly. And that was one of the more popular models built in the late 1960s and into the 70s by Triumph. Sort of a variation on the traditional Triumph is this 1970 GT6. This actually is a fastback coupe with a hatchback, and these were actually designed and built to compete with the MGB, which was MG's version of this particular coupe. Not nearly as many of these were produced or sold, and my understanding from the Triumph folks is this is perhaps one of the more desirable and collectible models at this time, and their value has really increased considerably. A very, very unusual example of a Triumph, and not ever actually sold or really seen in the United States, is this 1973 Model 2000 Mark II sedan, or as the British would have called it, saloon. And these were sold in many parts of Europe, as well as places like Australia, New Zealand, and this was Triumph's foray into the full-size car market at the time. And if you're familiar with British cars, you'll notice that it bears a strong resemblance to the British Rover as well. And this particular example was imported by its current owner from England in 2018, and he's very active in the Triumph Club, and it's certainly a unique piece and not something that the average person here in the United States would recognize or be able to identify. Another example of the GT6 is this slightly newer 1973 version. As you can see, it's slightly more streamlined and a little more up-to-date, if you will. A lot of people liken it to the Z-Series Datsuns of the period. Certainly a competitor of sorts, if you will. And again, just another nice example of a GT. As we move along, we have a couple more examples of the Spitfires. Here we have a Spitfire in the hardtop configuration with its hardtop in place. A very nice, colorful, bright yellow example, and then across the aisle you'll see a convertible version of the Spitfire. That's one of the later models from 1978, and it is not actually British racing green. Everybody seems to think that any British automobile that's painted green is British racing green, but Triumph actually offered a variety of different greens throughout the years. And then an example of the very end of Triumph production is this TR8, and this very unique sort of wedge-shaped design was critically acclaimed when it came out, and most of them were equipped with a smaller 6-cylinder engine. However, this particular example, the TR8, which was the final production model, is actually equipped with a Rover source 3.5-liter V8. And as small and light as these cars were, I can only imagine the performance one could get out of a V8 equipped Triumph. One of the other sort of categories, if you will, of our collection includes commercial vehicles, and some of them are service vehicles and some are different types of trucks and such. One of the early examples we have here is a 1923 Stutz Model C fire truck. There are not a lot of these that were produced originally or that survive today. This particular fire truck came out of New York State, out of a small town, and was purchased by our co-founder, Dr. Arneal, and was added to the collection in 1974. As we move along here, we have a 1923 white school bus, quite primitive compared to today's school buses. I can only imagine. The seating for the children inside are just wooden benches, and the body of the school bus is all wood. And I can imagine it was somewhat of a rough ride and kind of noisy. But I guess the kids didn't care when they were young. We also have a couple of examples of fire equipment. We have a recently donated 1934 Ford V8 fire truck that we've taken out for a couple of parades and car shows. A lot of fun to drive. Then a piece that we just recently acquired is this 1970 International. It is actually a fire assist vehicle that came from a small community south of Denver that actually no longer exists in its current name. But this particular vehicle only has about 12,000 miles on it and was used strictly at the local airport. Another interesting vehicle in the Forney Museum collection is this 1925 3/4 ton 11-passenger bus, which was actually used at Glacier National Park. I can only imagine the slow pace at which it gave tours to the visitors to Glacier National Park. It's only equipped with a 4-cylinder engine, and as large and heavy as it is, it probably navigated the mountain passes at perhaps 30 miles an hour at best. But certainly a unique part of the National Park System history. Next, we have a 1922 Samson. This is a very early version of a commercial truck. As you can see, quite primitive, open cab, very basic, simple vehicle. It actually wasn't rated for tonnage, but for yards, and this was considered a 1-yard commercial truck at the time. As we move along, here's a very familiar looking vehicle. This is actually a 1927 Ford Model TT truck. As many people who are familiar with the history of the Ford Model T know, the Ford Model T was available in all sorts of configurations, whether purpose-built or custom-built by owners. And this particular truck features a gorgeous wooden cargo bed, grain bed, and is a little bit heavier duty than the passenger cars, but just as reliable. Next, we have an example of a 1935 Chevrolet. This particular vehicle is an actual hydraulic dump truck and was used here locally in service in the Denver area for a number of years. And after its restoration, the donor very generously passed it on to the Forney. We have an extremely early example of a commercial truck. Here is a 1909 International Harvester. Essentially, if you look at it, the first impression is that it's a horse-drawn buggy, which for many intents and purposes, that is what it is. It's actually a motorized buggy. A lot of people would have referred to these as high-wheelers because they rode high on the large diameter wooden spoke wheels that were common of the horse-drawn vehicles. And this is just an example of an early commercial motorized vehicle. And then as we move along here, we have a part of Denver's history here. This is a 1931 Ford Model A U.S. Postal mail truck. And this particular mail truck was actually used here in the Denver metro area for a number of years. My understanding from the owner is that it was used from new in 1931 until the late 1960s. And in having operated this vehicle, one realizes very quickly how top heavy it is. And again, not something built for speed, but for practicality, and just sort of a unique piece that has survived. And then one of the last trucks here on display is yet another white. This is a 1926 white truck that was actually owned and used by the Chevron oil company in western Colorado on the western slope. And this particular truck was actually used by Chevron for many, many years and was not retired until the mid-1980s. So needless to say, I think Chevron got their money's worth out of this particular work vehicle.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website, gogoctv.com.
Another aspect of the Forney Museum's collection are our motorcycles. And among the motorcycles in our collection, which number just around 70, we have a very nice array of Indian motorcycles, which was an early high-quality American manufactured motorcycle. They date from this very early 1913, and as you walk down the display all the way to the last year of the original Indian motorcycle production of 1952. In fact, the 1952 example we have actually has only 9 original miles on it and has never been registered. Among them are some of the well-known Indian Scouts. Some of them are in the configuration of police motorcycles, race bikes as well. And along with this collection, we have a lot of memorabilia that's related to Indian motorcycles, literature and such. And this particular collection was actually donated to the museum a number of years ago by the Timmy Foundation of Pueblo, Colorado. And then as we go down here, we get into the Indians of the 1940s. And unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, they ceased production in the early 1950s. And I've been told that the Indian motorcycles were actually far more popular among motorcycle police officers because they were actually considered more reliable and faster than Harleys. And unfortunately, with Indian's demise, Harley-Davidson took over that market, and their motorcycles, to my knowledge, are still used to this day for police service. As you continue through the museum, you'll also see a wide variety of other motorcycles, not just Indians. We have examples of Harley-Davidsons. We have many early brands that did not survive. Here is an example of a 1927 Henderson with a sidecar. We have some European motorcycles. This next example is a 1932 German-built Tornax. Some more popular, well-known ones such as a 1952 Vincent, BSAs, which were also British-based. There's some Triumphs. We even have a few Cushman motor scooters. So just a very eclectic collection of motorcycles. Another unique one is a 1965 Sears and Roebuck motorcycle that you could have bought either in a store or via their catalog. So a different area of the Forney Museum I'd like to show is we also have a few examples of aircraft. And one of the things that's unique about our collection is that we have so many varieties of transportation on display. So one of the ones that in particular I think is of interest is this 1957 Fornair Air Coupe. And as I talked a little bit earlier about our founder, J.D. Forney, he was involved in all kinds of industries and enterprises. They had a publishing company, a film company, and one of the things that the Forney Industries did between about 1955 and 60 is they actually bought the rights to the Air Coupe, which was an airplane that had been developed back in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and they built these particular airplanes, and these were considered what we would have called, or they would have called, personal aircraft. And the idea behind these was that a businessman, for example, or an executive could own a small airplane like this two-seater, and rather than trying to take the train or drive cross-country to a particular meeting or even take commercial airlines, they could hop into their own airplane, take it to the meeting for the day, for example, from Denver to Chicago, and fly back the same day or the next day. And so Forney Industries was involved in the aircraft industry. They also manufactured propellers for a number of years as well. So just another diverse aspect of the collection and of our founder. As we continue the tour of the Forney Museum, we come into the section of our collection that features bicycles, as well as children's toys and such. The collection starts with an example of a early 1800s velocipede, which was actually what bicycles were called in the early days. And that's what's commonly referred to as a walking bicycle. You'll notice there's no pedals or chain, and you would essentially walk that bicycle, and if you came to an incline, you could hop on and ride it to the bottom of the hill. Not exactly practical compared to later bicycles. The collection also features very, very early wooden tricycles. Some people are familiar from circuses and other venues like that. The very large front-wheeled bicycles, they were typically either called high-wheelers or ordinaries. Unfortunately, due to their design and having to climb quite high up to the seat, they were only ridden primarily by males, because men were wearing pants and women were still wearing skirts and dresses, so it wasn't a very practical thing for women at the time to try and ride a high-wheeler. However, what they came up with in the about the turn of the century, in the late 1890s, early 1900s, was what they called a women's safety bicycle. And that particular example up there, if you'll notice, it actually has wooden spokes in its wheels, and features the design that a lot of women's bicycles did for decades, with the lowered crossbars, and that allowed women, even if they were wearing a dress or a skirt, to ride a bicycle. As we walk along here, we have examples of more modern tricycles. We have quite a collection of pedal cars, and it sort of features the transition as well as bicycles developed. We even have some unique ones. A lot of people have seen the tandem bicycle for two. The collection even features a quad pacing bicycle that would have been used in races. And as we move further along, we get into some of the bicycles that are more familiar to the public, some of the racing bicycles, a lot of the Schwinn's that were popular with kids in the 40s and 50s. We have some very unusual bicycles. If you look up there, we have a 1900 Columbia Model 108, and it's actually a shaft-driven bicycle. It does not have a chain. And then below it is a bicycle which actually is operated by pumping the pedals and is cable operated. So there were a lot of variations of bicycles through the decades. A lot of people from the 70s and 80s might have tried to learn and owned a unicycle. Those were of course popular in circuses, especially with the clowns. And then as the bicycles progressed, then obviously we got to things like mountain bikes and road racing bikes. And so the bicycle collection basically represents the early 1800s all the way through into about the 1990s.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website.
One of the things that the Forney Museum is very proud of is how eclectic and unique many of our artifacts are, and the fact that we don't have a very typical single theme collection. Although it's somewhat of a stretch when it comes to considering a tractor or farm equipment transportation, we do feature a couple of tractors. J.D. Forney was raised in a rural area on a farm, and hence some of these pieces. Behind me here is a 1923 Case steam traction engine. Prior to them being called tractors, they were referred to as traction engines. This particular example here is steam powered. Could either be fired by coal or wood. These particular tractors were not used for planting crops or plowing the ground as much as they were for harvesting. You'll notice here the very large green and yellow flywheel, and to that the farmers would have attached a large leather belt, and in front of the traction engine they would have parked a threshing machine. And this particular traction engine would have sat still while powering the thresher, and then the threshing machine was used for the harvest purpose, and then as they went through the field they would move both pieces of equipment. Because of their high cost at the time in the 20s, these were typically owned by a farm co-op, so a number of farmers would go in and own one. They would share it and move it from each other's fields and help each other operate it and utilize it. In front of it are a couple of examples of pedal cars of various tractors which were popular with kids in the 1950s, and Behind this, we also have a much more modern example of a case. This particular one dates from 1941, and we thought it would be interesting to feature a very, very early steam-powered tractor, and then by comparison, a much more modern gasoline-powered tractor. And this particular case was donated by a gentleman a couple of years ago, and we actually take this out to a lot of farm shows and have driven it in a couple of parades as well, and it's a lot of fun. Kids love to see those. Another facet of transportation that the Forney Museum features and displays on a regular basis are horse-drawn vehicles, and we have a wide variety ranging from the early 1800s all the way up through the early 1900s. For example, here we have an 1887 Brewster-built opera carriage. Brewster was a very prominent carriage builder, and they actually went on to build custom bodies for high-end American automobiles, as well as their own automobile in the early 1930s. As we move along here, the next example is a late 1880s funeral coach. A lot of our guests comment on how short it appears. And one of the things I point out to folks is the fact that people decades ago were actually not as tall as they are today, hence the shorter carriage. But again, something that a lot of people have forgotten about and don't realize was a purpose-built vehicle even in the horse-drawn era. The next example here is a Studebaker-built mail wagon, and this would have been used predominantly in rural areas and to deliver the mail, and typically a single occupant, of course, along with whatever packages or mail were being delivered. And Studebaker was one of the very, very longest surviving manufacturers of vehicles, starting in the horse-drawn era and moving into the modern era. They built their first wagon in 1852, and below this particular mail wagon, there's a photograph of a 1964 Studebaker purpose-built mail delivery van. So Studebaker's vehicle production spanned over 120 years, and it was at the time the oldest vehicle manufacturer in the United States. Then you have something here that was a little more elegant. This is a late 1800s wedding carriage, very elaborate, with a velvet interior, some fringe, and a lot of different colors and gold leaf. Something that would have been used by the wealthy or the aristocrats for weddings or other formal purposes. And the final example we'll show you here today is this Holland and Holland. It's a British-built carriage, sort of the British equivalent of a stagecoach as we know them here in the United States. These were called park drags, and they were either used to transport a large number of people. This particular one, they said that you could hold and carry up to 18 passengers, although I don't think I would want to be one of the 18 on this particular carriage. But again, a very nice, unique piece.
Your ad could be playing here. Contact GoGo CTV to learn more about running your ads directly on this channel. Don't wait. Unlock the power of advertising on CTV today. Get more details on our website.
Another aspect of the Forney Museum's unique collection are our rail equipment. And I'm standing here next to a very rare, only known surviving example of a Denver cable car. And this particular cable car dates from 1888 and was used in downtown Denver along one of the main thoroughfares known as 15th Street. And this particular streetcar was found in the mountains, and it was being used for storage. And when the museum acquired it in the 1980s, we were able to have it refurbished to its original appearance. Cable cars only were used in the Denver metro area for a very brief period of time, approximately from the late 1880s or 1888 till about 1893. The steel technology of the day wasn't as advanced as it is now, and the cables had a tendency to snap or fray in the cold winter weather. And so these were replaced in favor of electric streetcars, which were much more practical and easier to operate at the time. So behind me here is Denver's former streetcar number 77. This particular streetcar would have been the electric type that replaced the horse-drawn and then cable-driven streetcars and trolleys. The wooden streetcar like this would have been in service from the early 1900s up until about 1950, when the streetcar lines in the Denver metro area and many metropolitan areas were shut down in favor of buses. Ironically, after all the streetcar lines were shut down in the 1950s and buses came into fashion, now we're installing light rail in many metropolitan areas. Denver, for example, has a very extensive light rail system that they're building, and sort of ironic that what goes around comes around and what was old is new again. As we continue talking about the Forney Museum's rail equipment, I have behind me here a 1906 Colorado and Southern all wooden caboose. Most of these cabooses were clad in metal in later years for durability and weather resistance, and this particular one has survived in its original form. This particular example was built by the American Car and Foundry of St. Louis, Missouri, and would have been used from about the turn of the century until probably the 1950s, when it would have been retired. We'll go inside here and take a look at the interior of this caboose. As you can see, you've got the cupola areas where the various rail employees would have sat, and they could have viewed the progression of the train and given hand signals out the back. As we come into here, there are the living quarters. You have a small kitchen area with a table and a water cooler. They would have had a coal-fired stove for cooking meals or simply making a pot of coffee. And then they had sort of a bunk area, if you will, to take rest. Very primitive, just a wooden bunk with a simple blanket or mattress. And then they even had a work area with a built-in desk where they could do paperwork and conduct business. So nothing fancy, but just almost like a basic cabin on rails. Another piece in the Forney Museum's rail collection is this 1903 rail coach. And this is what would have been considered a private rail coach used either by rail executives or a very wealthy private owner. And this particular piece was built as a wooden rail coach, and in the 1930s was clad in metal as it's seen today, and it was in service, to our knowledge, probably into the late 50s or 1960s. The previous owner of this particular rail coach purchased it as a business promotion and painted it in a beautiful red, white, and blue theme to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the state of Illinois' statehood. So if you follow me into this rail coach, we'll start in the lounge portion. And this particular area would have been at the back of the rail coach, and this is actually the lounge area, which features a desk with a built-in radio, a telephone, and then behind me here, a very unique feature is a real working marble fireplace that could have been used to actually heat this portion of the rail coach when it was in operation. Not something you would think of in a rail car. And we'll go down the hallway here and talk a little bit about some of the bedrooms and the dining area. So a private rail coach like this also would have contained what would be considered today sort of luxury accommodations. I'm standing here in what would have been probably called the stateroom. This is the most luxurious bedroom of several here on this rail coach. And this particular bedroom features beautiful polished wood paneling. It has a built-in dresser as well as a fold-down sink and a toilet along with the closet area. It has a nice full-size bed as well as air conditioning and a fan for ventilation. Certainly would have been a very nice, comfortable way to travel on rail. The area in which I'm standing now here in this rail coach is the dining room, and this particular dining room is again very luxurious. It is paneled in mahogany, and this is where the various guests of the rail executives or the wealthy owner would have dined and entertained their guests. This particular dining room also features a built-in china cabinet with beveled glass and has special features to hold the glassware and the china so that they wouldn't vibrate, shake, or break while in transit on the rails. Again, just a very elegant way to travel from a bygone era. So at the very front of this rail coach are the quarters for the crew, and this typically would have been the butler and the cook's area to live in while they were on the rails. The first room here features the break room and bedroom for the crew. Then they have their own stainless steel lined shower. And then at the very end here, we have a fully equipped kitchen. And this particular kitchen area actually has its own refrigerators, a typical sink, and it even has a diesel fuel heated stove. Somewhat unique. We wouldn't necessarily think of using diesel fuel to cook our food these days, but it was practical and that's what worked at the time. The next area of the museum we're going to tour is our train area, and we call it the train pit because it's a lowered area here in the museum, and it houses a majority of the rail equipment in our collection. We're very fortunate in that we can keep all of our rail equipment indoors out of the weather, unlike a lot of museums where they have to house things outside. One of the things I'm walking by right here is a very, very early luggage cart, and these would have been used at the railroad stations, and they would unload passengers' luggage onto this and either take it to their waiting horse-drawn carriage or automobile and take it to the hotel or the home where they might have been staying at the time. As we walk along here, we're walking between the caboose that we talked about earlier, as well as the Polk Brothers rail coach, which would have been the private rail coach, featuring the mahogany paneling and other wonderful features for traveling. Over here to my right, we have the only known surviving example of a Colorado and Southern Railroad rail coach. It is still in its original wooden construction and is on our project for restoration because, as you can imagine, anything that was wooden that was stored outdoors really suffered from the elements, especially here in Colorado with our Four Seasons. To my left here, we have an example of a rail inspection car, which was typically a 1 or 2 staffed vehicle that would go out on the rails to inspect ties and check rail conditions. And along with this rail inspection car is a whole variety of hand tools that would have been used to maintain the rails and the tracks before the modernization with robots and hydraulic equipment and such. A lot of hand tools, a lot of very labor-intensive work for the railroad crews. Above that, you can also see an original period Rio Grande sign that hung at the main Rio Grande control tower here in Denver. That was generously donated to us by Union Pacific, refurbished, and recently hung for the public to enjoy. As we walk along, again on my left, we have another piece of Denver rail history. This particular piece is a steam-powered crane or derrick, nicknamed Aunt Peachy, I think mostly because of its color. But this was used here in Denver in the rail yard for many, many years, and when it was retired, it was donated to the Forney Museum. It was a piece owned by Union Pacific, and it was used to move pieces of rail equipment off the rails or to unload cargo. On my left, we're walking by a Rio Grande dining car. This particular piece is called the Pikes Peak dining car. It was one in a series of several built at the time, and ours is one of only a few that survived, and it's currently undergoing an interior refurbishment, and we hope to open it for tours so that folks can see what it was like to dine while traveling on the rails. And then the piece here to my left, we recently acquired. It was donated to the Forney Museum by Union Pacific in 2017. It is an early example of a diesel-electric locomotive, and it was purchased new in the early 1960s by the Rio Grande Railroad and utilized by the Rio Grande up until the late 1990s, and was donated, as I said, and moved here about 4 years ago. As we walk along here, we'll continue up to the front of the museum, and you'll see the last 3 significant pieces of rail equipment. To my left here, we have a typical steam locomotive and tender from the Chicago and Northwestern system. We acquired this a number of years ago, and the 444 gives people an idea of what a traditional locomotive would have looked like in size and configuration. And we purposely parked it across the aisle from our most significant rail piece, which is our Union Pacific Big Boy number 4005. Of the 25 that were originally built, only 8 survive today, and we have one of the 8 surviving examples here in our collection. It has not been operational since the early 1960s, and when these locomotives were being scrapped, Dr. Arneal from the museum was able to talk Union Pacific into saving and donating those 8 locomotives, and they're distributed across the United States in various rail venues and museums. To give you a perspective, one of the things we talk about is just how massive this particular locomotive is. It is 135 feet long, and if you compare it to the other steam locomotive across the aisle, it is considerably longer. It stretches all the way to the front of the museum, and just gives one a perspective on how massive these pieces of equipment were. The driving wheels you see here are 5 feet in diameter, and this particular piece of equipment, empty without any fuel or coal, in the tender weighed 560 tons, which in perspective is just an incredibly massive piece of equipment. Because of its sheer length, it also had what they called an articulation connection. There's a pin about halfway to the front of the locomotive that allowed the front of the locomotive to rotate ever so slightly in order for it to navigate some of the curves on the railroad. This particular piece has received a cosmetic restoration by the museum. This big boy is significant in that it is the only one where Union Pacific attempted to convert it from coal to fuel oil or diesel fuel operation.